Lost interest in my husband. I don't know how come we had this damn party because I really hated them. The guest of honor was Harrington Gibbs, rich beyond my wildest dreams, and the envy of my wife. Harrington and my wife Gail had known each other at Cornell for 3 years. Harrington went to Oxford, and Gail and I stayed to carry on the Cornell tradition, whatever that meant. In fact, I didn't get to know Gail until after Harrington left. They parted ways after agreeing that they could date other people. I got my MBA, and Gail and I eventually married, had 2 children, and lived happily ever after, until today. Harrington Gibbs returned 20 years later, richer and more attractive than ever. Grace and Harry Jr. left for college, leaving us with the proverbial empty nest. When Harrington announced his return, Gail was as excited as I hadn't seen her since college. I always knew she still had a thing for him. In many ways, it was extremely annoying to me, but I tried not to show my displeasure. I wasn't as good-looking as Harrington, and I wasn't as rich, but I was her husband. My biggest complaint was what went on in the bedroom. The few times we had really intense lovemaking, Gail would scream his name. Nothing ruins it like a woman calling you by another man's name in the heat of passion. It got to the point where I was paranoid about being called Gibby when I made love to my wife. She never could understand why I lost interest in her in the midst of our wonderful fiddling. I never explained it to her. So we throw a party for my wife's old lover, the one she fantasizes about. How could I not hate that man? There were only about 20 people there, but it was more than I wanted. It was a warm summer evening, and we settled outside by the pool. I grilled a few entrees, and all the guests could choose their entrees throughout the evening. I tried to stay out of the way and play the role of the shy, reserved host. Of course, Harrington was the center of attraction, and to further enhance the cake, he arrived in his new yellow Lamborghini. He bragged not only about his car, but the $500,000 price tag that came with it. Everyone came to gawk at the car, and most of the ladies, including Gail, of course, decided to take a ride. As the guests dispersed, I, like a good husband, began collecting empty bottles and dirty dishes. Finally, it was just Gail, Harrington, and me. Oh, did I mention that Gail invited Harrington to spend the night with us? We had plenty of room since the kids were away at college. Surprise! Surprise! Why don't you guys sit down and I'll make you something delicious to finish off the evening? I think we've had enough beer. Gibby, do you want a Tom Collins? I cringed when she called him that. I immediately felt humiliated. He smiled and nodded. I swear I saw him smirk in my direction. Harry, I'll get you a gin and tonic and myself a salty dog. You guys just relax for a bit. It's been a long day. I'll be right back. For a few moments, Harrington Gibbs and I sat in silence. I didn't have a single topic I wanted to talk to him about. Looking for a way to dispel the boredom, I stated that I needed to disconnect the propane tank from the grill. Harrington took the opportunity to make sure his yellow bird was closed for the night. As he headed into the garage, I got busy with the grills for the grill. The garages were located separate from the house, something my father always insisted on. Removing the first cylinder, I looked out the kitchen window. Gail was walking down the hallway to the kitchen with a small bottle in her hand. I stopped what I was doing and watched as she opened the bottle and took out 3 small capsules. It was a vial of Ambien that I had a prescription for. For me, Ambien was a killer sleeping pill. 1 capsule was enough to knock me out for at least 10 hours. I watched as my wife opened and poured 3 capsules into my glass of gin and tonic. Harrington was coming back from the garage, so I finished my business and we both returned to our cozy chaise lounges just as Gail came out with our drinks. Gail and Harrington, or Gibby, spent the next few minutes indulging in memories of old college days. Of course, I wasn't familiar with any of the people or places they were talking about, but I tried to feign interest by pretending to sip a gin and tonic. It was difficult to tip the drink into myself without dropping the ice, but I managed. As the drink was consumed, I noticed Gail and Harrington exchanging glances. I purposely began to lose interest in their conversation and started to close my eyes. Making one last fake gesture, I finished my nightcap, set the empty glass on the table, and made myself comfortable in the living room. I swear I heard Gail giggle. They waited at least 20 minutes, and then they both gently picked me up and carried me to the bedroom. I made a few inarticulate noises, which made Gail giggle again as they removed my shoes. 10 minutes later, I was on my feet and completely sober. I was amazed at how clear and determined I felt. I put my shoes back on and walked down the hallway. Gail and Harrington were in Grace's room, and from the sounds they were making, there was no doubt what they were doing. For a moment, I wondered if Gail might have accidentally called him Harry. I could very easily walk into the room and end it all, right here and now, but that wouldn't be any fun at all. When I got to the garage, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I wanted to drive the Lamborghini out of the garage, but the damn car was locked and I didn't have a key. The sunroof was open, so I reached in and opened the driver's door. Now I could do the work, but I still couldn't bring myself to do it. I started with 3 old cans of kindling fluid. I didn't even have a charcoal grill anymore. 2 cans were inside and 1 on the roof. I opened the trunk and hood for better access. Boy, this car was beautiful. I had 1 gallon of paint thinner in the engine compartment, and I added a couple cans of Coleman fuel to it. Going around the garage, I was surprised at the treasures I discovered. There was a half gallon of kerosene in the back seat. The inside of the trunk was covered with an incomplete can of turpentine. I poured a gallon of muriatic acid on the roof of the car, which made no sense because I was going to burn it anyway. To top it off, I threw a small box of leftover fireworks inside, mostly Roman candles and rockets. It would be a shame to lose Gail's Volvo station wagon and my Jeep Liberty, but it was worth it. I stood in the doorway at the far end of the garage and threw a lit flare. It took me less than a minute to get back into the house and up to the bedroom. Inside, the garage was lit up like Christmas. Gail and Harrington were still minding their own business when I walked past their room. I took 4 Ambien capsules out of the vial and swallowed them. At the last minute, I took another one. I wanted to make it look like I had taken too large a dose. I laid down on the bed and started laughing quietly to myself. The next thing I knew, some guy was shining a flashlight in my eyes and mumbling something like, "He's alive! He's alive!" When they were carrying me out of the house and pushing me into the emergency room, there was a big commotion. I was conscious just enough to realize that someone had cut a hole in my throat and put something in it. I realized I couldn't swallow, and the something smelled like an old Boy Scout campfire. I remembered that smell. Something was burning. There were cops and firemen and medics. Someone stuck a needle in my arm. Grace and Harry Jr. were sitting in my room when I woke up. I peeked out one eye to see what was going on and noticed them there. "What's going on, guys?" "Dad, you're awake." "Wait, I'll get the nurse." Harry came out of the room and Grace came and sat next to me. "How are you feeling?" "I feel lousy. What's wrong?" I knew what the hell had happened, but I couldn't tell anyone. "You took too many sleeping pills. You had a bad reaction and it almost killed you." "What the hell are you talking about? I haven't taken a sleeping pill in weeks." Grace looked a little shocked when I said that. The nurse who had returned with Harry broke out into a smile. "Well, Mr. Crenshaw, I must say you look a lot better than you did last night." "What the hell happened to me?" "Best we can tell, you took too many pills and they didn't help you." "I didn't take any pills. I had a couple beers and a gin and tonic last night. That's it." My nurse just tilted her head to the side and looked at me strangely. "What did they find in me? What kind of pills?" She picked up a card that was lying at the foot of the bed and looked through it quickly. "It says here that you took Zolpidem. How do you say that in English?" "Sleeping pills. I have a prescription for sleeping pills, but I didn't take any last night." "Mr. Crenshaw, I think you should talk to other people about this. I'm in no position to discuss it with you. I'm glad you're looking better. I'll let the doctor know." Grace went back to the bed and Harry came out with the nurse. "How did you guys get here?" "My mom called Harry and he picked me up on the way home." "By the way, where's your mom? Shouldn't she be here?" She's talking to the police about the fire. What fire? Was I asleep during the fire? The garage burned to the ground. The house is fine. Was anyone hurt? Just you. I hate to say it, but I'm a little embarrassed. I looked out the room window into the hallway. Harry and a nurse were talking to a tall man in a dark suit. They seemed to be waving their hands a lot, but they weren't arguing. Would you like some water? I heard her, but didn't answer. Daddy? Do you want some water? Oh. Yeah. Sure. I'd love some water. It was warm water through a drinking straw. At least it was wet. There was a bandage around my throat in the place where I assumed someone had made an airway. I had a small plastic tube that supplied oxygen to my nose, and I felt pretty good. My throat was sore. It was raw, like hamburger meat. In my right hand was an IV. A tall man in a suit was just entering the room when the doctor appeared. After a brief conversation, the man in the suit left. Dr. Empham checked my heart and blood pressure, but he seemed to be most concerned about my breathing. Ambien can cause severe swelling of the tongue and throat if taken in excess. He seemed concerned when I assured him that I had not taken any sleeping pills. As you guessed, of course, the doctor gave me a shot to help me sleep before he left. Grace and Harry left and promised to come back tomorrow. In the morning, my throat felt better. Before noon, they had even turned off all the monitoring and auxiliary equipment. Apparently, my recovery was going well. Good morning, Mr. Crenshaw. I'm Detective Naranja. Are you prepared to answer a few questions this morning? It was a tall man in a dark suit. My eyes must have glazed over or something, because I wasn't quite awake yet. I swung my feet off the bed and headed for the bathroom. The vessel was no longer in use. My voice sounded like a horse caught in a puddle, but I didn't care. It felt good. My throat was sore, and I took that as a sign that it was healing. So, Mr. Naranja, what can I do for you? You look like you're feeling better. Can you tell me what happened last Saturday night? What day is today? It's Tuesday. Damn it! Time flies when you're having fun. He tried to laugh, but it didn't work. Detective Naranja. The last thing I remember about Saturday night's party was cleaning up and then having a drink with my wife and Mr. Gibbs. We were sitting in lounge chairs on the patio. I don't know where the ambulance guys found me or whoever it was. The police found you, Mr. Crenshaw. They found you unconscious in your bed. I'm sorry, I don't even remember going to bed. You didn't. Your wife said you passed out from too much to drink and that she and Mr. Gibbs carried you into the bedroom. That's bullshit. I had 3 beers all night and 1 gin and tonic before I went to bed. 3 beers in 5 hours doesn't make you drunk off your ass. You weren't drunk, Mr. Crenshaw. We tested your alcohol level when we brought you in. Your level was so low you couldn't even be charged with a DUI. Why would she say that if it wasn't true? It gets complicated, Mr. Crenshaw. I'll try to explain it to you, but you have to listen to me. Detective Naranja and I sat in silence for a few moments. I had a whole bunch of questions I was dying to ask him, but I was also afraid he might have a lot of questions for me. Detective Naranja, was there a fire in my house that night? I seem to remember the fire department was there when they picked me up. Yes. Your garage burned to the ground along with the 3 cars that were in it. You don't know anything about that? He asked the question in a shy tone, like he was playing a trick on me. Of course, I knew he was, and I tried to answer accordingly. The last thing I remembered was how nice it was to stretch out on the chaise lounge after the party was over. Mr. Crenshaw, the arson inspectors will be here later to talk to you. But I have one quick question about the fire. Did you store combustible materials in your garage? Yes. That's why I had the garage built separate from the main house. My father was always afraid of garage fires, and I think I inherited that little quirk from him. The house wasn't damaged, was it? No. The fire was concentrated in the garage. Any idea what started it? Oh, yeah. No doubt about it. It was arson. Someone deliberately set the fire for some reason. I probably should have been a little smarter about the whole thing, but at the time I didn't care. Heck, I still don't think so now. I think someone didn't like the party. My witty reply elicited a slight smirk from him, which told me that my answer didn't amuse him. So, Detective Naranja, if this is what the fire department does, why are you here? Mr. Crenshaw, you didn't take any sleeping pills the night of the party, did you? No. Apparently, I didn't need them. The hospital did a full workup on your condition when they brought you in. There was some alcohol in your system, but not enough to cause problems. They found that you had been given a large dose of sleeping pills. You had a prescription for sleeping pills that was found in your medicine cabinet. I haven't taken those sleeping pills in weeks. I only take them when I have problems at work. What did you mean when you said I was overdosed? Mr. Crenshaw. After everyone left, our team checked the house and we found a glass that was apparently used for your gin and tonic. The lab found remnants of sleeping pills in the bottom of the glass. My wife made this drink for me. Detective Naranja did not reply. He just sat quietly, as if he was waiting for another answer from me. Did my wife drug me? I figured a direct question would elicit a direct answer. He nodded affirmatively, but said nothing. Do you know this for sure? Or is it just a guess? Your wife denied it at first, but admitted she did it after Mr. Gibbs told us the whole story. Are you saying that Harrington Gibbs and my wife conspired to drug me? Why? Well, that question made Detective Naraju squirm a little in his chair. He was investigating professionally, but seemed hesitant to tell me that my wife had drugged me to make love to another man. I decided to let him off the hook. Never mind. I think I know the answer to that. I'm truly sorry, Mr. Crenshaw. It's always difficult for us to give information of this nature to an injured spouse. We sat in silence again. I think that's why she didn't come to see me. Where is she now? Your wife is at her parents' house. Her father bailed her out. Will there be a trial? No. Harrington Gibbs told us everything to get off with a lighter sentence. In fact, his lawyers almost got him off the hook. He held your wife responsible for planning and executing what happened. He claimed he had no idea what she was doing until it was over. You don't believe that, do you? No, but he's got really good lawyers. What's going to happen to Gail? She's confessed to everything and agreed to whatever the court decides to avoid a publicized trial. What exactly is she being charged with? Frankly, at this point, I'm not sure. The officials in charge seem to change their minds on a regular basis. I think, but I'm not sure they might be interested. What are your feelings? He phrased it as a question, which I thought was interesting. I think it's really something I should discuss with her, but I'm willing to drop all charges if she agrees to a quick divorce without any charges. That would probably help, but she would still face civil charges. Even though you got her off the hook, she committed a crime and should face some punishment. See what you can do for her, okay? I'll get in touch with my lawyer as soon as I can. What's going to happen with the fire? He shrugged and got up from his chair. I guess I'll have to wait until I talk to the fire department personnel. That same day, Harry Jr. discharged me from the hospital and drove me back home. He was able to arrange to be released from school for a few days to help me get settled, but as it turned out, it wasn't necessary. I was able to get by completely unaided. We spent a few minutes looking at the fire damage, but didn't discuss the situation with Gail. He found himself in an awkward position. Seymour Schlump, my favorite attorney, arrived, and 2 hours later we had a quick and straightforward divorce agreement drawn up. I gave Gail the house and furniture, as well as half of our cash, after the child's college tuition was prepaid. Considering the cost of tuition, there wasn't much left over. Before Seymour left, I also advised him to file a $1 million lawsuit against Harrington for wasting personal feelings. Seymour was more than happy to comply with the request, as he would receive 22% of what he collected. My rental car was delivered just as the Papa John's representative brought me dinner. There was still plenty of beer left over from the party. My loving wife arrived before I finished my dinner. She didn't come in, but rang the doorbell. I thought it was interesting. I cleared off the kitchen table so we could talk. Harry, I feel stupid saying this, but I'm sorry for everything that happened. It was a stupid thing on my part, and there was a stupid reason for it. I can't make it up to you. What exactly are you apologizing for? For drugging me or sleeping with Harrington? She didn't cry, but her eyes filled with tears. The answer was weak and slurred. Both. I poured myself another beer. I looked at Gail and she shook her head, showing me she didn't want one. Gail, why are you here? Mostly to explain what happened, but also to talk about the divorce. Let's deal with the divorce first. What do you want? I don't want the house or the furniture, and you can keep the rest of the money. That would leave you with nothing, and I won't be able to pay the mortgage, and I don't want to worry about having to sell it. I'll probably be gone for a few years, and I won't be able to use it anyway. Okay. I'll have Seymour change it. Anything else? No. Just make it as quick and painless as possible. Are you sure you don't want a beer? No. Harry, I'm sorry about Harrington. It was wrong, and I have no excuse. There's got to be a reason, right? I know there is. I've been thinking about it a lot. Harrington and I were always good together. We were friends and we understood each other. The love was always great, not just good, but great. What about us? Harry, we made love. Gibby and I didn't do that. We just made love. I know it sounds like a tired old cliche, but it's true. Sometimes when we made love, it felt so good that I caught myself saying his name. I knew when it was happening, and I always felt bad about it. It was a reflex I couldn't do anything about. So you're saying I was a better lover, but Harrington was a better partner? It sounds so childish when you put it that way, but it's true. Were you planning on leaving with him? Oh, hell no. He was great in bed, but there was no way in hell I was going to live with him. You were the perfect husband, father, and provider. I would never give that up. But you gave it up. Now she was crying. It was restrained, but they were tears. It had been 20 years since Gibby and I had been together. I wanted to experience the thrill of shameless love one more time before we entered our golden age. We're only in our 40s. What the hell are you talking about? I wasn't sure if I'd ever see him again. Now you're just talking bullshit. You can babble on about all the stupid reasons why you did it, but it won't change anything. You did. It's very clear. I really don't want to hear any more. Are you done yet? Yes, I'm done. I won't bother you anymore, but I know it was you. What does that mean? You burned the garage to the ground. You set the whole thing up. I can't blame you. You were completely justified in everything you did, but you really did it. You weren't just a victim. We've been married for almost 25 years, and I know you better than you think. Are you saying I set you up? You know it, and so do I. What did you tell the police? Nothing. Who would believe me? You were such a good victim, I didn't stand a chance. I finished my beer and leaned back in my chair, smiling at her. There was no way in hell I was going to admit to anything. Harry, how did you know that Harrington and I had made love if you were unconscious in the bedroom? I sat there with a stupid smile on my face. When the ambulance picked you up from the house, you were wearing boots. When Gibby and I were putting you to bed, I took your shoes off. How did you get them back on, Harry? That astute inference made me shrug and smile. You didn't drink the gin and tonic I gave you. Somehow you knew something had been spiked in it. You fooled us into thinking you finished it, but you didn't. Did you? I stood up and threw the empty bottle in the trash. You knew I was going to make love to Harrington, and you did nothing to stop it. Who are you then, Harry? What husband would allow his wife to make love to another man if he had the power to prevent it? Her whiny look was replaced by arrogance. It wasn't nice. Oh, good. Now I get it. It's all my fault because I didn't stop you. You set this whole thing up to make love to your ex-boyfriend, and now it's my fault because I didn't stop you. The arrogance disappeared as fast as it came. Oh my God! laughs. I didn't say that? I didn't say that, did I? I'm so sorry, Harry. I didn't mean it. When I said it, I wasn't thinking. I didn't mean it. I really didn't. I stood up from the table and headed towards the exit of the room. I turned slightly to look at her. I think you should leave. I've had enough consolation for today. As I entered the bedroom, I heard her crying. A few moments later, I heard the front door close. 3 months later, I was alone. I sold the house, but didn't make a penny on the deal. Gail was sentenced to 3 years in prison for conspiracy to commit a felony, but the sentence was deferred on my recommendation. She now lives with her parents and works at a local bank. Harrington was more than happy to settle the lawsuit for $500,000. Anyway, I was left with less than $400,000. Now I understand why Seymour was smiling. Harrington disappeared to his estate in Cornwall, where he bred polo ponies. I don't believe he ever contacted Gail again. Once everything was sorted out, I was able to arrange a transfer to Dallas. Grace and Harry Jr. remained close to his mother, but I did not speak to her after the trial. The end!